Welcome, everybody, to the Genesis Mindset. So, today I want to talk about linear systems versus infinity loop systems. So, I recently watched a documentary movie called Inside Job, which highlights the flaws of the current economic system. So, obviously, the current economic system is something that we feel, or certainly I feel, has reached its limit. It's a linear system and it's really become skewed towards the few. And in my opinion, it's out of alignment with nature. It served its purpose. This is not to criticize it. It was exactly what we needed for the time to get us to where we are now. But now it's reached its limit simply because of its design. So, in my previous stream, I went into the concepts about the fourth turning, showing how we're at the edge of a new birth. So, we're at the fourth turning. So, we're in this 80-year cycle and we're heading towards the end of this 80-year cycle. So, today, I want to start laying out some of those ideas. I can't take credit for all of this, actually, but what I'm feeling about this when I first discovered this is, for me, completely beyond profound. I don't quite know how to express the magnitude of this or how to condense it in a way that is relatable, particularly because at this point in time, we've kind of heard all these buzzwords before, like new financial system, true DeFi. We've heard all these buzzwords before. We've thought maybe cryptocurrency was the answer in and of itself, but I don't think it was. Cryptocurrency is just a piece of the puzzle. So this really is just a brief introduction into comparing linear systems to infinity loop systems. And obviously, when I think of, one of the first things that I think of when I think of an infinity loop system is something that's eternal, something that's infinite, therefore natural, something that has a birth, a death, and a recycling process, and it's continuous. It's an infinite loop. Compare that to a linear system, which is just one direction. So let's get into I just want to go into this a little bit. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not. If you haven't, I really strongly recommend it. I do enjoy watching all of these kinds of documentaries and movies. Things like The Big Short is probably one of my favorite movies, Big Short, Wolf of Wall Street. And they really highlight the flaws of the economic system. So I'm not going to play any of these clips, but you can go to IMBD and there's some clips here that you can look at for yourself, but it's ranked 8.2 out of 10. It's narrated by Matt Damon. It's really, really, really exceptional. So it goes through the process of the GFC, how everything led to the GFC, how this current system led to the GFC. And just like any documentary, there's a particular bias towards it. Obviously, that's what makes it more interesting. The way that I came away from it was a part of me feels like there was ignorance on the behalf of people that were basically, just to summarize, we all kind of know the story. The big issue was the derivatives market, and it was totally unregulated. And what they ended up doing was they would repackage mortgages that were crap. Rating systems that they were paying to rate them would give them AAA ratings, which is the highest rating. They don't really care. The ratings market doesn't care, because if they give a AAA rating, it's just an opinion. So there's no legal obligation there if it's not. So, of course, they're going to give everything a AAA rating if they're getting paid to do that. And then investment banks package all that up and then tell everybody they're AAA investments, and they start selling total garbage mortgage investments to old school funds that basically ended up getting screwed over. And in the end, what ended up happening was the people at the top kept all the wealth and the people at the bottom got totally scraped dry. And this was basically the pinnacle of the system as it is, as a linear system, and all the incentive structures and how the laws and everything is all entangled in a way that basically makes it, in my opinion, broken, irreversibly broken. And I think all of us here in cryptocurrency have recognized this for a long, long time. So very, very good. I would strongly recommend it. It just gives another deeper understanding of the issues at hand. And for me, humans, just by nature, are self-centered and greedy just by nature, just by the human mind. And so if the incentive structures are promoting that behavior, then people are going to do that behavior if they can get away with it, which they all did. So there's a part of me that wants to condemn them, but there's a part of me that's like, well, it just is what it is. And I also think that there was a lot of ignorance of people who are actually going through that system, that they genuinely thought that this party would last forever. They didn't see the consequences of their actions down the road. They were caught in the moment, they were caught in the greed, they were caught in the euphoria, and they didn't see the rug pull coming at the end. There was certain people that did see the rug pull coming at the end. They brought it to their attention and they were continuously ignored or shifted away from their jobs. That's where it became a problem. And so it's like a mix of ignorance and a mix of willful ignorance. So it's very, very interesting. So I want to just first of all, just say g'day to everyone. So what's going on, Red Bull? Hex G unit. I'm feeling it, bro. I'm feeling like that bottom's very, very close. I mean, for my mind, the bottom is basically essentially in. Whether you get the perfect bottom, but the bottom is essentially in. It's really just a matter of now, like, when it's going to start to turn. And I feel like we're going to need some kind of white SWAT event. What's going on, Puffy? Craig Anthony, what's going on, bro? Good to see you in here. Loves the cut of the jib. Thanks, my man. Good. Oh, Majesty, please. No. Live, laugh, love. Definitely not Majesty, but I appreciate that, my brother. Good morning, Bud. Good to see you in here, Bud. I know that this will definitely be up your alley. So a lot of the concepts from that video that you recommended, I forgot what the name of that video is, but I actually need to probably go back and watch it again now because it's kind of those concepts from that video have marinated with some of these concepts that I've now rewatched in this inside job. So mid-cycle lows coming in the next week or two, then we pump. I'm pretty much aligned with you. I'm aligned with you, Adam. I'm thinking in a few weeks, and I'm thinking like a case dismissal, hopefully in a few weeks. I mean, if Coinbase gets dismissed next week and then everything else gets dismissed pretty close after that, then it might align with a nice, like the next wave of our uptrend. So, okay. So definitely recommend this. Really, really interesting documentary. Matt Damon, very, very high production quality, very interesting, very engaging. So now linear systems. So ChatGPT, traditional money flow and its flaws. So how money flows in the traditional financial system right now. So basically you earn money. So you get your money from your job, your business, or your investment. Usually this is through time. So now there's a lot of people that are trying to teach you to leverage your time. And so you can scale up the amount that you make. Then you spend that money, you buy it on rent, groceries, bills, it goes out into the economy. Then through that process, you pay your taxes and your fees to governments, banks, credit cards, interests, all of these things. And then the money is flowing upwards. So the money flows upwards through the middlemen, large corporations, stock markets, centralized financial institutions, banks. And then through this system, the wealth stays trapped. So the wealth accumulates to the top. So it's hoarded by billionaires, banks, and funds, and very little reinvestment back into the everyday economy. So there is this concept of trickle-down economics. I wouldn't be able to know. I'm sure I'd be able to look up the statistics of trickle-down economics, but I'm sure that the money that flows upward is a lot less than the money that's flowing down, even though they're the ones that are creating the jobs. Yes, there is this kind of like cyclical pattern that does happen in that, but it's about the wealth. The wealth is not cyclically flowing down. Yes, in a small kind of a way. Like, I mean, in Australia, for example, the housing market has gone through the roof. And just like everything in life, we try to find somebody to blame. That is not us. So who are we blaming in Australia? We're blaming immigrants. Or no, so we're blaming overseas investors for buying up property. We don't blame the government who owns multiple house portfolios, each people in the government, or rich men, rich women, rich Australians who own like property portfolios. We don't blame any of them, because that's too inconvenient, because that basically shines a torch on the flaw. So what do? We externalize that flaw and say, oh, it's overseas investors. That's the problem. They're the ones that's making the housing market go up. So what's happening in Australia is the housing market is going up, but our it's not being matched by the amount of money that people are actually taking home. So the money you earn is not being matched. And so obviously the wealth keeps stacking up higher and higher and higher. And so therefore you're getting like a pyramid type of structure. So the wealth goes like this. So you've got the financial survival strategy at the bottom. So basically you're just trying to survive on whatever you've got. Then you've got money controls basics. So working on paying off all forms of debt, paying off mortgages. And this is where most people stay. Most people stay in debts. Like I cannot believe how bad it is in America in terms of the university debt. Like you guys have to pay so much effing money for your university. It's beyond insane. I don't know if we have in Australia a HEX system. So basically the government will front up the cost and then we just pay back the government through our tax over time. And so it's still expensive, but it's nowhere near the kind of debt that Americans seem to go through with their university system. It just seems so absurd. And then you're stuck in that system basically for X amount of years of first working, which is just insane. And this is where the majority of people live. So then they buy a house, they get a mortgage, and this is debt. So they're paying that off basically till the day that they die. And so somebody 30 years ago, we have people in the government in Australia boasting that, oh, I bought a house when I was 19 years old. You guys can just do it if you work harder. But the wage that they were making proportional to the house that they bought was the percentages are like massive percentages. The wages that we make proportional to the house prices now, the gap is so much wider in terms of percentages. And it's really all comes down to percentages, obviously. So the gap keeps getting wider and wider. And so we're seeing this. They keep stimulating the economy by trying to print money. Now he's doing what, the 5,000, sending out 5,000 to everybody. They're trying to stimulate economic flows. So they're trying to put oil in the engine. So action plans for wealth development. So planning for college, both you or your kids. So yeah, this is where you're like saving money, asset accumulation. So if you're this far up, this is, maybe us, we would consider ourselves in asset accumulation. I don't know about you guys, but I do have some debt. I've still got some university debt. But basically, I'm all in on the asset accumulation stage. Then you have that upper middle class, so small increase in lifestyle while still accumulating financial assets. And you keep going up until you get into the upper echelons where it's like the ultra mega rich. And so it's really like a pyramid flow of finances. So the main flaws with this is it's one-way extraction. So the money always flows up, but it never cycles back. So this is what AI is saying, but it does cycle back if you look at trickle down economics. So it does cycle back because they're the ones that are creating jobs, but it doesn't cycle back in the same proportion that it cycles up. And this is the problem. This is why there's an ever increasing gap between the 1% and the 99%. It's a debt-based system. So people and governments borrow endlessly. And so what are they trying to do in America right now? They're trying to eradicate the debt, trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. They're never going to do it. It's impossible. We're living on a debt-based system. So America pretty much, like, kudos to you guys. You guys have pretty much figured out the hack, which is just keep printing money and everybody else pays for it. And that's how we stay ahead of everybody else and become the number one country in the world, just by continuously printing money. And so if you can just keep printing money and suckers like Australia try to maintain a stable balance sheet, well, it's not in our benefit to maintain a stable balance sheet. Obviously, there's cracks in the system when you do have too much debt, which is obviously very clear to see in America, but it's obviously spilling out to the rest of the world. But really, it's keeping America ahead of the game, but it's also locally seeming like it's creating like massive, massive issues. So Australia seems to maintain a state of equanimity. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I just feel like why not just do what everybody else is doing and just keep printing money and boosting the economy. But we still seem to be getting by just okay. So you have wealth centralization. So the top 1% control most of the world's money. And once it's that way, it remains, it doesn't always remain that way, but I mean, if you're in the 1%, it's pretty impossible to lose because you're the one that are creating the market cycles. So when money tops out in the stock market and then it flows into whatever, it flows into gold, or then it tops out in gold and flows into another asset market. It's all being done by the 1%. It's just like market makers in cryptocurrency. When you have low liquidity, yeah, you can see yourself creating a bottom or a top. If it's like a super low liquidity token, you can create that top or the bottom. That's why I reckon when Richard Hart called the top on the day, I reckon he was the one that also created it. That's just a little theory in my mind, because the amount of Bitcoin he must have, he would probably be creating that top where he's saying, I'm calling the top. He'll be creating that top candle, and then it just keeps dumping, and everybody's kind of like, it's a cascade effect. Everybody kind of follows that herd mentality. There's no recirculation. So unlike nature, where everything cycles, the finance is stagnant. So it stagnates to the top, and then all it does is just buys stuff. And I guess that keeps things flowing to a certain degree. But, there's also a limit to that as well, because things, when you think about like cars, okay, well, how much jobs is a Ferrari actually creating, or a Lamborghini? So there's like you end up paying like proportional for the actual brand itself. So it's actually not creating more jobs. It's just redistributing the wealth unfairly towards certain portions of society. So this is how the traditional money flow works. So, all right, before I get into the cyclical, what's going on, Stephen? Haven't seen you for a while, Stephen. Good to see you, man. Solana is a tool of TradFi. Solana is a tool of TradFi, is a tool of the administrative state. Notice how Trump team moved value to Ethereum when they took profit from Trump token. FTX was manipulating, even rolling back transactions on Solana. Do you want to go into that, actually, Bud? I do believe it is a tool for TradFi. I 100% believe it's a tool for TradFi. So with what you're saying with Trump, are you saying Trump recognized that and basically was like, all right, well, if that's how you guys want to play, I'm going to take it all from Solana and I'm going to bring it to somewhere that I choose? Is that basically what you're suggesting? Because that's pretty epic. What's going on, Jikaboos? JSU, what's going on? Government money to banks, to government money to banks. Yes, exactly. That's exactly. And when the government, when the Federal Reserve prints money, it's not just printing money and equally distributing it to all of society. It's printing money and giving it to the upper echelons of the pyramid. So again, it's being unfairly distributed. So it only further compounds the problem. And obviously, the problem is being further compounded, and the evidence is everywhere all throughout society. You've got the 1% and the 99% gap is just getting wider and wider and wider. It's insanity. When they showed the bonuses these guys were getting, some of these guys would have gotten, like, from the period of 2001 to 2007, there was one guy who got $470 million in bonus, or he made $470 million. He was a CEO of one of those companies, which is just absurd, like totally and utterly absurd. That's $500 million in 7 years. And half of that came from him selling his stocks in 2007. So he probably got to a point where he saw the writing on the wall and he's like, I'm jumping ship. I'm getting the hell out of here. Like, that is so disgusting. It's so abhorrent. And not a single one of them went to prison. Not a single one of them went to prison. And they're trying to go after Richard Hart. This is the hypocrisy of the system, because they also buy their way into government. This is the thing. They also, all their buddies end up becoming the ones who are the regulators and the ones who are in charge of everything. So of course they're going to look after all the boys. It's pretty simple. It's not even a conspiracy. It's just how it is. So exactly. Government is the biggest fraud. It was the biggest Ponzi. Okay, yes, Bud. Okay, man, that's epic, Bud. So you're saying Trump saw that. That's epic. And now he's flowing it into Ethereum. So yeah, things are about to get seriously insane. So in Poland, the government wanted to tax properties with an additional tax, but then realized that everybody in the government owned a few houses and apartments. So the tax is pending for years now. Exactly. Exactly, live, laugh, love. Exactly. This is what they do. They make policies that benefit them and their boys. That's how it goes. That's why governments run by humans are total garbage, because humans are flawed because we have self-centered minds. I mean, I keep saying self-centered mind, and I think maybe I hope it doesn't trigger anyone, because I know when somebody first said that to me and like, oh, all humans are self-centered, it triggered my ego, my mind, because I was like, well, I'm not self-centered. I'm someone who like advocates for the little man, and I'm someone who goes out and protests and tries to help people that I get no benefit in return for. But there's also a part of my ego that's a lot that's attached to that self-centeredness of like, oh, I'm a better person. So it's just how we are. It's literally just how we are. It's the flaw of the human mind that it's self-centered and greedy, but that can be eradicated. But we won't go into that too much today. So the empire must fall. Yes, Ram, exactly. So I earned my bachelor's without taking on any debt. I went to grad school to put myself ahead of the crowd, graduated in the Great Recession with 60K loans, never missed a payment. Today I owe 87K. Hang on. I earned my bachelor's without taking on any debt. I went to grad school to put myself ahead of the crowd, graduated in the Great Recession with 60K loans, never missed a payment. So through your bachelor's, you had no debt, but then you went to grad school. See, because I don't understand the terminology for the American system. So, well, actually, I mean, in so like with my architecture degree, I had the bachelor's degree, which was 3 years, and then I had my master's degree, which was 2 years. And so I think my bachelor's is considered undergrad. And so what you're saying is, for the first few years, basically to break it down, for the first few years, you didn't take on any debt, but then in the next few years, you borrowed some money, and so you took on debt, and you never missed those payments. But today you owe 87,000. 87,000. Is that for real? Is that actually for real? Dude, that's insane. That's insane. You owe 87,000. How long ago did you so you graduated in the Great Recession? I don't when is the Great Recession? Sorry, because I can when you say that, I'm thinking Great Depression, and obviously it's not Great Depression. So what's the Great Recession? Is that after the GFC or? Yes, exactly. Rather than helping my family, hopefully this pays off, and hopefully it will help your family in the long run. So that's insane, though, man. That's what I'm talking about. That is insane. 87,000 in debt. That is so insane. Because the interest is like, it just keeps compounding and getting worse. So everybody's footing the bill for their greed. This is the thing. This is why the interest is killing us. But then who's getting all the money? It's these dudes. It's all these dudes. Like these guys are just some of these guys, like, look at this dude here. Like he's just a horrible human being. When you see what he does and how he does it, you can just tell he just doesn't give. I just want to swear, but I'm not going to swear. But you can tell he just doesn't give a crap about anybody but him and his family. He just couldn't care less. He just could not care less. Exactly. A lot of the time, the student loan repayments don't even cover the interest, so it's gross. Okay, so now cyclical. So recursive finance model. So what's different about a recursive finance model? So this is like an infinity loop. So money doesn't just flow up, it loops and compounds, creating endless opportunities. Has decentralized AI and liquidity loops, creating self-sustaining wealth cycles. Instead of extracting wealth, recursive finance reinvests wealth continuously, so it's creating a loop. And so you often hear people talking about like an infinite money glitch in cryptocurrency. You hear people talk about an infinite money glitch. So we're seeing signs of that already within cryptocurrency, in the way that people are manipulating the automatic market makers and manipulating liquidity pools to try and yield generation to try and uh, to try and emulate this process, which is a more natural process. So it seems like, when you hear people talking about infinite money glitch, it's like, oh, that's like too good to be true. But in a world of abundance, in which is reality itself is abundant. There's always there's more than enough of everything for everything. It's only just humans which wipe everything out. So nature just flows perfectly. Nature just flows continuously perfectly. So how it works is smart liquidity loops. So when money moves, it generates more value. So this happens through automated market makers. So it's compounding reinvestment. So profits are automatically reinvested into growing the system. It's AI powered efficiency. So AI is ensuring that money flows to where it benefits people the most. So imagine that. So governance is done by AI, not by humans. And this was something that I spoke about maybe at the start of my channel. I was saying, well, one of the big negative points of Hex is the OA and the fact that people think that Richard Hart owns the OA bags and that he could dump it. What if the OA was a DAO? What if it was an AI? That would just eradicate all fears around it, and it was programmed in such a way that it benefits the whole. And so it takes away all self-centeredness, because AI can be programmed to not be self-centered. It can be programmed to be benefiting the whole. So an AI-powered efficiency that's always looping things around, making things to be more efficient and flow continuously. Decentralized governance, so no banks, no intermediaries, no middleman D. So you control your own wealth. So one thing, I just looked up a diagram. I probably should have brought up an architecture one, because it would have been easier to talk about. But I can understand this from through architecture, sustainable design, sustainable architecture, because the building industry consumes a lot of energy and there's a lot of waste. And so this is like a linear system. You're extracting from the ground, you're refining that into building materials, then you're building a building, and then whatever's left over just gets thrown into landfill. And then when that building's finished, it gets destroyed and thrown into landfill. So it's like a linear system. There's no cycle there. So sustainable design is trying to recycle materials or design materials and buildings so that they can be deconstructed and reused. So it's trying to create these infinite loops. And obviously, in this particular example, this infinite loop is talking about at the center of this is the collection process, where energy gets recovered, and or maybe parts of it do have to go into some form of landfill. So then they collect the raw materials. You get the raw materials, it goes to manufacturing, then through the logistics process, it gets distributed around, goes through service providers, then to the user, and then from there it gets shared. So share is the process of selling or sharing access to products. It gets maintained. So then it gets reused, recycled, remanufactured, recycled, and then this loop continues. So this is an infinite loop. So a financial system that's based on an infinite loop would be a perpetual financial system. And look, I don't consider these things to be like, I'm sure some of them are conspiracies, but you've heard of like infinite energy systems, and then people who design these systems end up getting assassinated or murdered, and then they just disappear off the face of the earth, and so do all their patents. And why is that? Because the oil industry is a linear system. So you extract the oil out of the ground, you process it, send it out to, you process it, it gets shipped out or whatever to the user in a petrol station. Then the user takes it, burns it, and that's it. It's done. There's no recycling back in. It's a linear system. And then the powers that be will extract that for all that it's worth. They're going to squeeze the juice out of that lemon for as long as they possibly can. And so there's been people that have invented cyclical energy systems, and they get assassinated and murdered. So this kind of concept of a financial system that actually does this, yeah, if anyone can pull this off, then Yeah, it's yeah, there's a lot of risk. There's a lot of risk, but we're not going to focus on the risk. We're only going to focus on the inevitability of it because it's the truth, because it's infinite. It's an infinite loop. So it cycles like everything in nature. So everything in nature, it grows, it dies, it gets reused. It grows, it dies, it gets reused. It grows, it dies, it gets reused. It cycles continuously. And then there's this infinite flow, a natural flow. This is how the monetary system should work. So it's fair for everybody and it's continuously flowing and it doesn't stagnate. So then I look at something like the Atropa ecosystem. I look at the fact that there's hundreds of tokens and there's tokens that are inversely correlated, there's tokens that are related, and there's tokens that are completely unrelated, there's tokens that are going sideways. So it looks like the building blocks of a whole new financial system. So the financial system at the moment has all of these kinds of concepts: treasuries, treasury bills, gold, bonds, stocks, has all of these types of things within it. Assets that move against each other. And the system is the global system. But we're making a financial system within our blockchain. So this is like the pieces. This is like the foundation that's being built out. This is what it looks like to me. And so when I look at what did I have up here? So when I look at this, for example, so this is down to Atropa. So here, this is Atropa, and this is down. So Atropa to Pulse, down to Pulse. You can see they pretty much look exactly the same. Against Pulse, they pretty much look exactly the same. So in other words, they're moving at the same rate against Pulse Chain, essentially the same rate. They're not exactly. This Atropa is more exaggerated. It has a higher peak, a higher peak, a higher drop, a lower drop. Down doesn't have as exaggerated. Well, you can see it here. So then this is Atropa, and this is down. So it's with weekly candles, and it's with the Heikin-Ashi. So that's also probably why it gets smoothed out in such a way that makes it look so correlated. But you can really see like just how insanely correlated they are. But you can see the differences. So for example, in this period here, and then if I zoom into this period here with Atropa, it's a little bit different, but very much, well, geez. Is it really that different? It's almost exactly the same. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. 3 reds, 4 reds, 4 reds. It's insane. Well, yeah, okay, maybe they pretty much are like literally exactly correlated. So by design, right? So, but then when you pair them together, it's completely different. They're completely different. So one has strength over the other, but against others, they're moving side by side. And so this creates arbitrage, this creates tension, this creates opportunity for liquidity to flow throughout different assets within the ecosystem, just by virtue of the way that they've been proportionally and mathematically designed. So this has been multiplied by thousands and thousands and thousands of liquidity pools, because there's 300 tokens, but then amongst these tokens, each token, Atropa will have hundreds. Down will have also probably in the hundreds, TSFI, so on and so forth. So there will be thousands of different liquidity pools with relationships like this. And I've shown in previous videos all the different kinds of wave patterns. And all that that's doing is just creating opportunities for arbitrage. And AMMs to constantly flow liquidity throughout the system. So for me, I just wanted to today, it felt like a truly decentralized financial system. This concept is blowing my mind. This is blowing my mind, but it's almost like uh I don't know how to describe it. It's like there's something about it that also feels quite flat. Maybe it's because it's too incomprehensible, because I never considered that this could be the birth of an entirely new financial system. This could be the birth of that. I did consider it, but I didn't think it was possible. I thought that was just a bunch of like, hopium basically. But the building blocks are there. The building blocks are there. So yeah, I don't know how to express the magnitude of these concepts, because it's going to take me a while. It's going to take me a while. It's really going to take me a while, but I believe that it's possible. I believe that it's inevitable, and this is why I keep saying that we've won. And this is why I've always felt in my heart that we've won. But I didn't think the win was going to be as big as creating literally a new financial system. I didn't think the win would be that big. I didn't think the win would be that big. And the reason why it feels so flat is because it's so incomprehensible that not even the rest of Pulse Chain would be able to comprehend it. So even amongst people in Atropa, I don't even think people in Atropa will be able to comprehend it. I'd say maybe like 1 to 5% of people would probably be like, I kind of get what he's saying. I kind of get the concept. And not that I have some sort of higher understanding. Not that I have some sort of higher understanding, because I really don't. But I feel like there'd be 1 to 5% that are like in tune with it and going, yeah, I can see that. And then the rest would be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, but not actually able to conceive it conceptually for it to actually truly resonate in your heart. That's why it feels flat, because it feels like the resonance out to the rest of Atropa is like the feedback of the resonance of presenting this message to the message being received it's in the early stages. So it's like there's no power there. It's only just this synchronistic projection into the future that's like, holy shit. And it's mind-blowing. And it blew my mind. I went through a week of like bliss and euphoria and synchronicities. And it was just like, I'm in that flow again, where everything is just like, God is talking to me. And this is crazy. And this is where if I'd get put in probably a mental hospital as having bipolar disorder. But these things happen so much that I'm like, it's not. If it was a one-off thing and it was like manic bipolar or something, then yeah, I can see that. But it's now I'm trying to figure out ways of like maintaining some form of equilibrium on the downtrend of that, because yeah, the homeostasis is a real killer. So, and obviously what comes up must come down. But then there's the people within the Atropa ecosystem, who would probably not fully comprehend it, even though in principle they'd be able to go, that makes a lot of sense, but still not fully comprehend the magnitude of it and what that actually means. And then we have the rest of Pulse Chain, who doesn't even know anything about Atropa, thinks that they get it, thinks that it's just a bunch of BS, and will be totally closed off to the idea. So even within Pulse Chain, which is a niche within cryptocurrency, and Atropa is a niche within Pulse Chain, then there's a niche that maybe I don't know. Maybe that's enough. I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm just going to go through some of these comments because I don't want this to be too long. So I want to present this bit by bit. The Great Recession. Okay, so yeah, the GFC. Holy shit, man. So you went through uni during that period. That would have been the worst time to go through uni. I've accepted that this is the money I will pay for the rest of my life. If I wanted to pay it down, my parents would be like twice my rent cost. If I wanted to pay it down, my parents would be my parents would, and it would be like twice my rent cost. I've accepted my student loan payments will just be money I pay for the rest of my life for the honor of getting a graduate degree. If I wanted to pay it down, the monthly payment would be twice my rent. Ah, yeah. I mean, I like that outlook of being grateful for it. I think that's great. I think that's beautiful. It is an honor to be able to get a graduate degree, and it is an honor to be living in a country where that's even possible. It's definitely something to be grateful for, of course, yes. But I also think we can be grateful, but also want for something more aligned with nature. So, yeah, that's what I think of that. But that sucks, bro. That's insane. So that's a point of the education system in capitalism, increasing working class. That's why they increase the price of universities to make it difficult to get education. And most likely you end up becoming working class. Blockchain system might stop this unfair system. I feel like blockchain is definitely a part of it. I feel like all of this culminates with the metaverse. I've been saying this for a long time. So create business, generate cash flow, buy life insurance, borrow from life insurance, buy PDI, provide V2 liquidity equals infinity loop. You've mentioned this about buying life insurance. So I definitely recommend people go back and listen to Bud explaining that in one of the Atropa movement episodes. If you look on my channel, Bud went into detail about that. So creating a business and generating a cash flow, and then you buy life insurance. And then with that life insurance, you're borrowing from that life insurance. And then you buy PDI and you provide V2 liquidity, and that equals infinite loop. So yes, yeah. Then if the V2 liquidity goes somehow back into creating more businesses or going back into the original business to increase the amount that you can borrow from your life insurance, then it would be a true infinite loop if it flows back in. But see, I don't even know if you can do that sort of stuff in Australia. That's the thing. Like the market in America is a bit different. I don't even know if you can do that in Australia. Borrow from your life insurance. It sounds like a very American deregulated idea. I'm not sure if you can do that in Australia or not. You might, but I've never even looked at life insurance, so I wouldn't know. I'll have to look into it. So, but I also need to create a business after this. That's part of the plan. So I'm definitely going to be utilizing some of those ideas because even if we do create some kind of infinite loop system within Atropa, within Pulse Chain, it's not just the light switch is not just going to change and everyone's going to go, oh, they've got the solution over there, let's all do that. It's not going to work like that. It's not going to work like that at all. So there's going to have to be a constant adapting and flowing with the world and accepting the world, and then just adapting to it with the mind of truth. And this is the mind of truth, to accept everything and quote unquote go with the flow. And in that sense, then putting money back out into the old system and then funneling that money back into the new system, into the truer system, into the true system, that would be a way to accelerate the expansion of the new system, I would say, because it's going to take a while. And one of my goals is, I'm not going to go into my goals, but I believe that Australia is primed to be a country that could fully adopt a system like this and be a precedent, set a precedent for the rest of the world. And that's going to be part of my life mission. So I've had these visions in the past, and again, having those visions, I'm like, yeah, more than just visions. Visions sort of sounds like it's like a mental thing, like it's something that I just had this vision in my mind, like a thought. It's beyond that. They're synchronistic. Blockchain is the ability to create a fair educational system where rich person can't manipulate it and give a chance to average person. Yes, it does. It does. But blockchain in its current form is just an expression of the old financial system. It's an expression of linear systems implanted onto the blockchain. So blockchain has not reached its true form yet. It's like I thought of this a while ago, where blockchain is like it's like when electricity was discovered but not being utilized. It would have taken many, many years to actually make electricity mainstream. In every single product in your house now is run by electricity. But when it was first discovered, maybe someone put something together and noticed some kind of spark, and it's like, whoa, what is this thing? This is electricity. That's what blockchain is. It's like we've got this thing, this technology, but we're not using it to its capacity yet. It's just basically just another way to hyper exaggerate the existing Ponzi structures in the old financial system. Just like Bud said with Solana, it's exactly the same. Solana is exemplifying the Ponzi nature of the traditional financial system. It's just exemplifying what it is. That's pretty much exactly what it is. And so it's showing the worst of the worst, but it's good. It's showing it as it is. I don't know if you've looked into PTGC, but their model is very similar to what you're talking about. Taxation is used to buy and burn, add liquidity, and the rest is... Yes, there you go. There you go, Stephen. Exactly. I have looked into PTGC. Exactly. So, yes, exactly. So these concepts are already being birthed only on Pulse Chain. Only on Pulse Chain. Nobody else has that idea anywhere else on any other blockchain, to the best of my knowledge. Maybe Vibra Finance, Adam would know if there is anything else like that on another blockchain, but to the best of my knowledge, no, there isn't. So it is like a self-reinforcing design, but it's not an infinite loop, because, and I could be completely wrong, but the sellers are going to they're not going to destroy it, but the sellers are like, they're going to wreck it. It's still like an isolated, okay, yes, it's a system in the sense that it's like within itself, it's designed within itself to do this, but only within itself by leveraging the liquidity pools around it. So it's still, in a way, like a linear system. In a way, it's just basically utilizing different forces to propel it forward more. But it's not just going to keep going forever. The show's going to end just like Hex. The show's going to end sometime, and there's going to be a 95% drop. Like you can barely sell PTGC as it is sometimes. The show will end. So would that make it infinite? Then probably not. It's still like an isolated system which utilizes some of those principles. It's kind of like learning to fly. The Wright brothers, everybody was trying to build planes, but then the Wright brothers were the ones that actually took off. And so that's kind of what it is. It's like PTGC is something where it's like heading towards that, but it's not quite that. That's not to FUD PTGC, just for the record. PTGC is awesome. That's just my perspective, and I could be completely wrong, and I'll be very, very happy to be proven wrong. if it continues, if the bear market, everything just gets totally destroyed and PTGC just keeps flying and 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 everything else is getting wrecked, then I'd love to see that. I don't logically see how that's possible. It doesn't make any logical sense to me whatsoever. So even voting should be on blockchain. Chesters will be against it. What are Chesters? Genuine people will support it. Chesters, maybe the old world. Did you see this Atropa graph yet? Illustrator, which Atropa graph are you talking about? I'd love to know which Atropa graph you're talking about. Amen. Gratitude while working towards something better, more naturally aligned. That's it, brother. That's it. Is life insurance an Atropa? Puffy. Oh, boy. Don't give Maria any ideas. Borrow from life insurance is a system with specialized LI policies using a system called infinite banking. Yeah, see? The banking system's trying to do it. So again, it's just like another PTGC system. This is what PTGC is, really, in a way. That it kind of has that same feel for me. So what's going on, Matt and Barley? Yeah, tonight's been more of a deeper conversation about inside job linear systems and infinite loop systems, and how possibly Atropa is looking like. I mean, it's certainly building. It's laying the foundation. The building blocks are there. PTGC whales can dump the price, of course, but a portion of their sale will be redistributed, creating a higher low. Yes, exactly. I understand all of that. But it still doesn't truly feed back into itself. It doesn't. If there was, maybe it would be like, because it's still too isolated in the sense that it's just one token. Yes, it has a system around it, but it's isolated as one token within Pulse Chain. So it's like they all need to be interconnected somehow. They all need to be interconnected and working with each other. And if every single thing on the chain was a PTGC and they're all interconnected and working with each other, that would be different. That would be different. So I have not. So let's go. The Atropa graph from Freedom 777. My boy. Freedom 777. Here we go. You talking about I know which one you're talking about. This one? I have seen this. Yes. I'm assuming this is what you mean, Illustrator. Yeah, bro. Look at this. You can't even zoom into it. This is the liquidity web of the Atropa ecosystem. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's just beautiful. It's really just beautiful. And so PTGC is part of this. PTGC is still part of this, but still something about it. There's just something about it which doesn't resonate as like the final solution. I shouldn't say that, should I? The final solution. Definitely, Stephen. Definitely. Exactly. And I think PTGC's, I think, to be perfectly honest, I'm almost thinking it's probably going to outperform Teddy Bear. Almost thinking it's going to. I mean, it already is in many, many ways. So it might end up being the premier meme coin. Let's just see how that goes. So, yes. All right. I'm going to leave it at this. Thanks everybody for engaging and commenting. I don't know what it is, but I definitely feel so much calmer when I've got these babies in front of me. Aren't they just beautiful? They're really, really gorgeous. I love them so much. I just fed them today with some new water and eggshells. So they're going to be very happy. They definitely make my heart feel warm. I don't know if my heart feels warm because the content I'm talking about is now leading to a new path. It's paving forth a new path to the world, or if it's because of these babies here keeping me calm. But I've since I've had them here, like my heart feels really calm. Maybe they're just happy to be on. Maybe they're happy to be seen by the rest of the world, and they're happy to show off their beauty as well. Maybe that's what it is. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Have a good day. Have a good night.